Look at your own ears, small, rigid, and pinned flat against the sides of your head. They are built to hear what is immediately in front of you, mostly while the sun is shining. Now, picture me at 2 in the morning, sitting perfectly still at the foot of your bed. Staring into the pitch-black bedroom, I suddenly tip my head back and let out a long, echoing howl. You jolt awake, groggy and slightly spooked, staring wildly into the shadows of the room. You are wondering if I've seen a ghost or if I'm simply trying to ruin your sleep. I can see your confusion, but I promise you, this isn't a supernatural event or a random nocturnal tantrum. What you are witnessing is the execution of a highly efficient, long-distance biological communication method. It is a survival instinct inherited directly from my wild ancestors, designed specifically for the dropping temperatures. This ancient protocol is built perfectly for the still air of the midnight hour. While you rely entirely on light to feel safe in the dark, my reality is completely different. My world is shaped by reading and responding to invisible, high-frequency acoustic vibrations that your ears cannot process. Let us travel back, far before you provided me with a memory foam bed and a consistent supply of kibble. Back to the sprawling, unforgiving forests and frozen tundras where my ancestors, the wolves, carved out their existence. In that vast emptiness, survival was not an individual effort. It depended entirely on the cohesion of the pack. But how do you keep a family together when they are scattered across miles of dense brush and heavy snowfall? When you are hunting in the dead of night, you cannot rely on sight. You must rely on sound. The night itself fundamentally changes the very nature of how sound travels through the open air. During the day, the sun heats the ground, causing warm air to rise and creating turbulence that scatters acoustic waves. But when the sun sets and the earth cools, a brilliant atmospheric phenomenon automatically occurs. The air near the ground becomes cooler than the air above it, creating a natural channel for sound. This actually refracts or bends sound waves back down toward the earth instead of letting them escape. A vocalization which might only travel a mile at noon can easily carry for several miles at midnight. When a dog tips his head back and howls, he is not just making meaningless noise into the dark. He is utilizing the optimal atmospheric conditions of the night to broadcast a powerful vocal anchor. It is a dual-purpose message, a call into the dark saying, "I am here. Where are you?" to our family. It also serves as a sharp territorial warning to rival predators that this land is claimed and heavily guarded. Now bring your focus back to the modern world, right outside your comfortable bedroom window. Your ears are tuned to the frequencies of human speech, which hover in a comfortable mid-range bandwidth. My ears are entirely different instruments, tuned specifically to capture the high-frequency vibrations of a distant pack. Because of this specialized auditory anatomy, modern civilization constantly bombards me with confusing acoustic illusions. A distant ambulance wails down the street, or a freight train blows its whistle miles away in the dark. Even a harsh winter wind whistling through the tiny cracks in your window frame can trigger this ancient response. Those sound waves often hit the exact acoustic frequency of a howling canine calling out in the wild. It is not that I am confused and actually think an ambulance is another dog. It is that my biological instinct forcefully demands an involuntary, immediate reply to that specific sound. When my brain registers that specific high-frequency vibration, an ancient reflex takes completely over. It forces me to join the chorus, to echo the call, and to add my voice to the night. But what exactly happens when the trigger is not an external sound, but an internal emotional state? We are, at our very core, obligate pack animals who depend on social connection for survival. Our brains are hardwired with the absolute conviction that isolation equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals death. During the day, the house is filled with your movement, your scent, and the comforting rhythm of our shared life. But at night, when you retreat into a deep, silent sleep, the house becomes incredibly still and empty. For a dog that struggles with separation anxiety, this sudden darkness and quiet can feel like utter abandonment. The howl, in this specific context, acts as a desperate vocal tether to the ones we love. It is a deeply emotional plea thrown into the void, a way of reaching out to find missing pack members. I am simply trying to bridge the gap between us, calling out to ensure I am not left alone. Furthermore, you must understand that when the sun goes down, a completely different, hidden world wakes up. While you are essentially blind and deaf in your bed, my nose and ears are pulling in massive sensory data. The night is crawling with activity, like mice moving within the walls or raccoons turning over garbage bins. Feral cats might be slipping quietly through the shadows of the garden just outside our door. I can easily hear the high-pitched scratching of claws on wood and smell the sharp scent of an intruder. But because it is completely dark, I cannot always visually confirm exactly what is out there. This sensory mismatch of smelling and hearing a threat, but being unable to see it, creates heightened frustration. The howl becomes a vocalization of that tension, a way to declare dominance over an unseen intruder. It serves as a stern biological warning for them to stay far away from our family den. We must also acknowledge the harsh biological reality of aging and how it affects our minds. Just as human brains slowly change and degrade over time, our canine brains do the exact same thing. In older dogs, a condition known as canine cognitive dysfunction can slowly begin to take a firm hold. It is a physical deterioration of the brain pathways, very similar to how Alzheimer's operates in human beings. A senior dog might wake up in the middle of the night, surrounded by shadows, and suddenly feel completely disoriented. They forget where they are, forget that you are safely asleep nearby, and are gripped by confusing panic. Their midnight howl is a heartbreaking cry for help from a mind struggling to navigate its own fading map. Add to this the reality of physical pain, like aching joints or arthritis flaring up in the cold night air. The vocalization simply becomes a natural way to express physical discomfort when there is no one awake to comfort them. Knowing all of this, it is almost comical to me that human folklore attributes our midnight choruses to the supernatural. You have spent centuries whispering stories in the dark, convincing yourselves that dogs howl at nothing for ghostly reasons. You assume it is because we are seeing ghosts, sensing evil spirits, or predicting an imminent death. I must gently, but firmly, burst that ridiculous bubble of human superstition right here and now. There are absolutely no scary phantoms floating around at the foot of your bed in the middle of the night. There is only biology, a highly evolved creature using an ancestral method of acoustic communication to interpret the world. We are simply processing a world of invisible frequencies, deep emotional attachments, and shifting atmospheric pressures. When I howl into the darkness, I am certainly not talking to the spirits of the dead. I am speaking directly and clearly to the living, functioning, physical world all around me. So, when the final note of my howl slowly fades into the shadows, the heavy silence of the bedroom returns. I do not look at you for any kind of validation or an apology for waking you up. I simply circle 3 times on my blanket, let out a deliberate sigh, and rest my chin on my paws. My ancient instinctual obligation is officially complete for the evening, and the physical perimeter is now totally secure. I have sent our vocal anchor out into the cold air and answered the distant chorus of the neighborhood. I have firmly asserted our biological claim over this small, important patch of the physical world. Meanwhile, you are likely still tossing and turning, angrily pulling the soft pillow over your heavy head, wondering how long it will take for your heart rate to settle so you can sleep again. I truly feel a brief, mild flutter of sympathy for you and your incredibly limited human senses. It must be terribly frustrating to be so disconnected from the rich, vibrating world happening all around you. You cannot hear the vast, invisible acoustic symphony of the night happening right outside your home. Nor do you understand the ancient, urgent calls echoing just beyond the fragile glass of your bedroom window. But that is exactly why we function so incredibly well together as a bonded, interspecies pack. You provide the soft memory foam and the unquestionable safety of these solid four walls for us to rest in. In return, I stay alert and keep a careful watch over the invisible currents of our shared territory. I am your biological sentry, perfectly tuned and wide awake when your own primitive senses completely fail you. So go ahead and go back to sleep. You can rest easy knowing I have the night watch. Now tell me the absolute truth down in the comment section below. When your house goes completely dark and quiet, what strange vocalizations does your own dog make into the night? And what hilarious supernatural nonsense did you wrongly assume they were looking at in the shadows? Let me know down in the comments, and perhaps I will dissect their biological motives in my next video.